What's going on? It's Shooting the Schmidt. Welcome. I'm your host, Jonathan Smith. If you missed it last night, the college football playoff rankings came out. Top four seeds as of today. This will obviously all change in 2 weeks, and it probably won't even matter anymore what these rankings are, but people are riled up and upset. Your top four seeds would be Oregon, Texas, Boise State, Miami, and then from there you'd have Ohio State as the 5 seed. Penn State is the 6, Indiana is the 7, Notre Dame is the 8, Alabama would go to Notre Dame as the 9 seed, Ole Miss at IU is the 10, and then Georgia at Penn State is 11, and then BYU would be the final conference champion bid if they won the Big 12. Once again, all this is going to change here in the next couple weeks, but people are highly upset about these rankings, and that's what makes them great. It gets people riled up, and it gives people like me something to discuss. Now, Tennessee is the first team out, followed by SMU ranked at 13. I want to start, though, with Indiana, right? Indiana comes in ranked 5th, and there's just been this war on Indiana this entire week, right? Talking about the schedule and how they don't deserve to be ranked 5th and all this other nonsense, okay? Because Indiana is well deserving to be ranked 5th. That is where I would have them ranked if I got a ballot and got to help them kind of create this schedule, okay? Or excuse me, if I got to create these rankings. Because yes, the schedule is bad, but they've been dogging everybody, okay? Like they're winning by an average of 30 points per game. If you sit down on Saturdays and you take time to watch Indiana play, I promise you that you will be impressed. Okay, that defense is fast, nasty, they can really play. You look at the offense, they've got good skill guys, and that offensive line is a bunch of juniors and seniors. Okay, so like that is a good team, and I think that on Saturday when they play Ohio State, we're going to find out that that is a good football team. But if we want to talk about a team that doesn't deserve a bid, if we want to talk about a team that's ranked way too high, then the answer is Penn State. That's clearly the answer of the team that is ranked way too high. Their schedule is eerily similar to Indiana's, right? They don't play anybody super tough. The one tough game that they did play was against Ohio State, and I know they only lost by 7, but if you watched that game, it's pretty apparent that Penn State does not belong on the same field as Ohio State. And that's why, to me, it's important to watch the games. Because if you watch the games, then you can see Indiana looks dominant. And if you watch Penn State barely beat Bowling Green and get handled pretty easily by Ohio State, then you know that Penn State's a little bit overrated. And they're not the 4th best team in the country. And I get it. Like, the people vying for teams like Penn State and Indiana are talking about winning and how results matter. And results should matter. And then you got all these SEC people that are like, well, the schedule, right? Because Georgia's had to play at Ole Miss. They got Tennessee at home. They had to go to Alabama. Like, they've had some legitimately tough games, throughout the season. And it's like, that should matter as well. Okay, who you play should matter. Winning and losing should matter as well. The thing that with every team, though, that we can see, and why I find it incredibly important, is that we can sit down and we can watch all of these teams play. Like, we can watch Georgia play every single week, and depending on how they look, no matter who their opponent is, we can figure out whether or not that's one of the 12 best teams in the country. Okay, we can sit back and we can watch Indiana play every week, and we can do the exact same thing. We can do it with every single team. Okay, and I firmly believe that if you sit down and you watch Indiana play football, then you will be convinced that they're one of the 12 best teams in the country. Okay, you may be like, well, I don't know if they're the 5th best. Okay, that's fine. We have a difference in opinion there. But to say that they don't belong in the playoff at all, I think is insane. It's just, you're telling on yourself if you think that they don't belong at all whatsoever. Okay? The other thing that I find really interesting, just looking ahead to Saturday with this Indiana and Ohio State game, takes are already coming out about how if Indiana loses, no matter what, they shouldn't be in the playoff. If they win, that's the only way they should be in. If they lose close, then they should be in. If they get blown out, then they shouldn't be in. And I just have a really hard time believing that. I believe that if Indiana wins or loses, no matter what, they should be one of the playoff teams. Because first and foremost, I've sat down every Saturday and I've watched them play, and they are one of the 12 best teams in the country. In addition to that, if Notre Dame's going to get a college football playoff spot after losing to Northern Illinois at home, then Indiana should get a college football playoff spot if they go to Ohio State and lose. Okay, if Penn State is going to be ranked fourth in the country, after playing, once again, a very similar schedule to Indiana, where you play a lot of the bottom teams in the Big Ten, and then you have one tough game against Ohio State. Penn State lost that game at home. They lost that game at home, and the committee just doesn't care. It's almost like that game didn't happen. They're still ranked fourth. Sit down, watch these games. Indiana, they look like one of the 12 best teams in the country. Win, lose, or draw on Saturday. They deserve that spot, even if they lose by 50. Okay? Now, teams that don't deserve spots, teams that I believe are ranked way too high, would include, first and foremost, Penn State. I think I've made that relatively obvious. And you say, Jonathan, like, why do you think Penn State shouldn't be ranked? My answer would be because I have watched them play. Okay, when they played Ohio State played one of their worst games of the year, bad pick six, fumbling the ball through the back of the end zone, and Penn State still lost by a touchdown. It's like if there's any year where they're going to beat Ohio State, like it was this year. And despite Ohio State not playing well, their offense, Penn State's offense, still couldn't generate a touchdown. Like, that is not a team that deserves to be ranked fourth. They barely beat Bowling Green. They barely beat Illinois. They barely beat USC. Okay, like, I'm begging you, sit down and watch that pathetic offense play, and you'll quickly realize that they're not the fourth best team in the country. Okay, now maybe they should still be in the playoff. I just think that they're ranked way too high, and if these, rankings hold and they go into the playoff as a 6th seed and they play Georgia, I don't think it'll be close. Simple as that. Next, Miami. The fact that Miami's ranked 8th seeding wise, they're the 3 seed because they're going to win the ACC. I always forget that is how that works. I don't know if I'm a fan of that or not, but either way, that's just how it is this year. So, Miami, they're the opposite of Penn State. Okay, like, I don't trust Penn State because that offense is atrocious, to say the least. When it comes to Miami, the offense is awesome. Cam Ward, arguably the best quarterback in the country. I'd say it's Shooter Sanders, but that's neither here nor there. But when it comes to Miami, though, that defense is awful. Okay, and when you watch them play, I think that's very evident. It's like, yes, this offense is awesome. They can put up points in a hurry, and because of that, they have a chance in a lot of games. But the defense is so bad that I just don't know if they're one of the 12 best teams in the country. Okay, like, they should have lost to Virginia Tech. They didn't because the replay booth overturned something that had no business being overturned on that Hail Mary. They should have lost to Cal as well, who's not very good, but the replay booth missed an obvious targeting call. And so, like, they've caught breaks. They barely beat Louisville, who's, I think they're 6-4 now with a loss to Stanford. Like, that's an average team at best. They lost to Georgia Tech. That's an average team at best. I'm just not convinced that Miami's the 8th best team in the country, but hey, they win the ACC, then I will digress, and let's put them in the playoff. Next, Boise State. Like, Boise State's ranked 12th. They're likely going to be the group of 5 bid, and I don't know. I don't like that they're ranked 12th. Like, in the grand scheme of things, it probably won't matter because they're probably going to win the Mountain West if, things kind of continue down the path that they're going in the Mountain West. They'll play Colorado State in the conference title game, and Colorado State's not that great. So, like, I know that Boise State has Ashton Jeanty, and people really like him, and some people are vying for him to win the Heisman. I don't know about that. I'm more of a Travis Hunter guy, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just not convinced that they're the 12th best team in the country. Like, yes, they played Oregon tough, but that was week 2. Oregon has gotten significantly better since then. I don't think that Boise State has. They barely beat UNLV. They barely beat Nevada. And if you're a non-Power 4 school and you want for me to believe in you, then I need you to blow everybody in your conference out. That's what I need. Even, during the BCS days when Boise State would be ranked like 4th in the country, they blew out all of their conference opponents. Like, it didn't really seem to matter. So Boise State, Miami, and Penn State, those are the three teams that I thought were ranked a little bit too high. Okay? And then finally, the last thing that I want to hit on here, and the thing that bothered me the most about the rankings last night, was that BYU dropped 8 spots. Okay? And it's not because they shouldn't have dropped 8 spots. I believe that they should have. My thing is, they never should have been ranked as high as 6th if one loss was going to drop them 8 spots. It means that the College Football Playoff Committee clearly knew that they weren't the 6th best team in the country. They just put them there because of resume. And I get it, resume is important, okay, like I've covered all this. But here's my thing. The rankings are supposed to reflect the 12 best teams in the country. Ultimately, that is their goal. And, look, like, if you're undefeated and you're playing in a Power 4 conference, you should probably be ranked somewhere in the top 12, right? You're probably one of the 12 best teams in the country if you're doing that. But, like, BYU didn't need to be ranked 6th. They should have been ranked, like, 8th or 9th, somewhere in there, okay? And, like, I know there's some people saying, well, they lost to Kansas. Of course they dropped 8 spots. Well, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, and that doesn't seem to matter. So, Saturday, another big one, Indiana, Ohio State. That game's at noon. Really hate that it's at noon. I wish it was later in the day, but, we sadly don't get to control that. But, it's just typical college football playoff stuff. The SEC teams are upset because they aren't getting enough favor, and then all the non-SEC teams hate the SEC because the SEC is complaining about it, and then, it's the same argument we have every single year. It's record versus who you play, right? This is always the argument that we fall back on. And so, yeah, like there's nothing new here. There's nothing new. It's just, same old college football playoff talk. Thanks for tuning in this video. I'll be back tomorrow to do another one here on the Shooting the Schmidt YouTube channel. Please take the time to like the video, subscribe, and share with a friend. Once again, I'll be back tomorrow morning to drop another video.